Mandolin player Avi Avital made a splash in 2012 with an all-Bach album from Deutsche Grammophon Records. Now he's released his second recording with that label. It's called Between Worlds. Avi has joined us from New York to talk about that album. Welcome to FM 91.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your new CD. I've been listening to it all morning. Such a wide variety of music on this disc, and I wonder if you can tell us the concept behind the title, Between Worlds.
So the idea was really to take classical music and to that was inspired by folk music, and really to examine where the border is between these two genres. I mean, how do we define classical music or concert hall music at all? This is something that has been in which I was interesting for quite a while now, and I think the very first inspiration, just to illustrate the idea of the album, was Bartók, was a composer that exactly 100 years ago wrote his very popular suite of 6 Romanian folk dances. And he went himself to villages all around the Balkans and collected tunes from village people, from shepherds, from peasants, and he took all these folk melodies back to his studio and recomposed them, reharmonized them, re-elaborated them, and made them into concert music for string quartets, symphonies, or piano solo. And I found this action extremely kind of modern and extremely interesting, obviously for his time, even revolutionary. And because this concept of taking folk music and introducing it into the concert hall also reflects a little bit the identity of the instrument that I'm playing, the mandolin, I thought of making a whole album, with this topic.
You said something very interesting in one of your videos when you were talking about the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, which I think translates as well to the music you have on this disc. You said that Bach's music was so pure and ran so deeply that it translated very well to lots of different arrangements with instruments. In other words, Bach still survived and flourished no matter how it was presented, and you showed that, of course, in your 2012 CD. But would you say that this music has that same quality?
Absolutely, yes, because it's driven from a lot of the pieces are driven from folk melodies. They are much more ancient than any other piece of classical music, more ancient than Bach. So they have these universal elements, this absoluteness that also Bach's music has to a very high degree. But when you hear a folk melody from Spain that is just so old and has been transferred from mouth to ear for generations, that has a whole different power.
How did you choose the pieces on the CD? You've mentioned the Bartók, but there are a lot of things here. Some of them I cannot even pronounce.
Yeah, I know which part you're talking. Of course, the Sulhan Tsindzadze. He's a Georgian composer from Tbilisi, and it took me a while to figure out the right pronunciation. So again, my lead was to find those composers, and all of them are more or less in the beginning of 20th century, where we have a very interesting stream of composition language, which I call folklorism, and one thing that is common to all these composers, Piazzolla for Argentinian music, Villa-Lobos for Brazilian music, Bartók we mentioned for Balkan music, De Falla for Spanish, and so on, is that they all wrote classical music driven by either their own folk tradition or by other people's folk. For example, Vittorio Monti, who's an Italian composer, wrote his super popular Csárdas, which is a Hungarian dance. So he wrote a score inspired by Hungarian culture.
And I also see, looking down the list of pieces here, I can certainly see where many of them would fit into this concept and be interesting and perhaps have a history with you as well. But then I see down at the bottom the traditional Welsh melody, and I'm wondering how that made its way into the disc.
So there are two and a half exceptions on the CD, which I just wanted to integrate three really folk tunes in this album as well. The first one is the Bucimish, is a Bulgarian folk tune. It comes right after Bartok, so I imagine it like the seventh, Balkan dance by Bartok, just without Bartok's, treatment, just raw folk music. And the last track on the album is the Welsh song, and this is a funny story because I went to record with Catherine Finch, a Welsh harp player, and we planned to record a bunch of stuff, and at the end of the day we had an hour left in the studio after we were done recording our other stuff, and we said, why don't we try just for fun to record the folk Welsh tune. So she had a little book, and we randomly chose one little melody and put it on the stage. We didn't have any arrangement, we didn't have the chords, we just had two lines of the melody, and right there on spot with the record light, the red light on, we just improvised this arrangement. We didn't plan it to be on the record, but then we listened to it and it was just fantastic. I loved it, and I really felt it should end the album.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and it's kind of low key, and it takes you into a completely different world at the end. So I think it's a nice wrap up to everything that came before. You mentioned the harpist, Catherine Finch, and you also have some other musicians on here as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your cohorts on this CD who play with you?
Yes, there are many musicians on this CD. It's each track we wanted a different instrumentation. So there's a group of maybe 7 or 8 musicians, instruments including a string quartet, double bass, flute, clarinet, harp, a lot of percussions to spice up and to bring out a little bit the folk aspects of the things, and to really make it more upbeat. And there are some very special guests, big masters that I'm hosting here on the CD, and Catherine Finch, of course, is one of them, but also the jazz accordion player, Richard Galliano, who's extremely famous for his interpretations of Piazzolla, and of course it was such a treat to have him recorded, to have with me the Piazzolla, and klezmer clarinetist, the king of klezmer, Giora Feidman, who's a very dear person to me, a big influence in my life, but also, the one person who really revived klezmer music and in all over the world practically.
You play a couple of different instruments on this CD, right? Not just your mandolin, but you also play the mandola?
Yes, the mandola is like a mandolin. It's from the mandolin family, but it's tuned 1/5 below. So if the mandolin is tuned like a violin, the mandola has exactly the same tuning like a viola. So a little bit deeper in range, and I used it whenever I wanted the sound of more kind of a oud and a North African instrument. Especially in the beginning, in the very opening track, and also in the Welsh song, because mandola, a similar instrument to the Irish bouzouki, is used for Celtic music and for Welsh music as well. I wanted that kind of warm, low range sound of it. So in some of the places I chose the mandola, although most of the album is of course the mandolin, my main instrument.
Very interesting, the correlation between instruments that you mentioned. Now, I read somewhere that you played in a mandolin orchestra. Is that true?
Yes, when I was a kid in my town in Beersheba in Israel, we had a mandolin orchestra, youth mandolin orchestra, and that's where I started my studies. That was actually my introduction point to classical music in general. My first teacher for mandolin was also the conductor of this orchestra. It was something that we met like every Friday after school for rehearsals. We then made our annual concert in the end of the year, and it was really a lot of fun. I met a lot of friends playing in this orchestra, and of course got familiar with a lot of music and a lot of composers that I later on played as a soloist as well.
Did they actually play things like Beethoven and Mozart and Bach, or was it more folk type music?
No, definitely. Our teacher used that as a pedagogic tool, because I remember every year he would make sure he's rearranging pieces for the mandolin orchestra from a big variety of classical music genres. So we always had like one Baroque piece, one piece by either Mozart or Beethoven, classical, one romantic piece, one 20th century piece, and then a medley of any Russian melodies or American melodies, and so we had this variety. I'm very grateful for this experience, because it really introduced to me a lot of masterpieces that otherwise I don't think I would have been exposed to.
Well, I think we have an idea for your next Deutsche Grammophon recording. Get the mandolin orchestra behind you. I would love to hear that. I imagine things are a little hectic for you right now. You have your Carnegie Hall debut tomorrow night, right?
Yes, that is so exciting. In this week, holding really two dreams are coming true at the same time, and obviously this is extremely exciting, and yeah, Carnegie Hall. I mean, this is a milestone not only for me, I think, but also for the mandolin and its renaissance that is experiencing in our period, being presented by Carnegie Hall, a whole classical mandolin from beginning to end recital. This is, I think, if I'm not wrong, this is the first time it happens in Carnegie Hall, and it's very meaningful for me, of course.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we wish you the best of luck with all of that.
Thank you.
And also congratulations again on the new CD. Avi Avital's new album is called Between Worlds, an exploration of the intersection between folk and classical music. It's from Deutsche Grammophon Records. You can find it at all the normal outlets, as well as on our own website. That's at wgte.org. And you can learn much, much more about Avi and his art at aviavital.com. Avi, thank you so much for joining us today here on FM 91.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.